business magazine. We cover business stories in the 941 area code, which is Sarasota and Manatee. And while the mission of the magazine is to help businesses run their companies more successfully, we're keenly aware of how important our quality of life and environment is to bringing people here. And we often feature green businesses in our issue because we know that the business people that we write about are here for those very reasons, that this is a beautiful place to live. To me, it means that there's a real opportunity, as Howard has talked about, to create a greener economy here. We're now going to move to education pathways to green jobs. First, we'll hear from Tim Rumage from Ringling College of Art and Design. Tim challenges his students to consider the environment as part of design. Second, we'll have Ross Alander. He's from USF, Sarasota, Manatee. Ross is a full-time senior lecturer in management studies in the College of Business at the University of South Florida and was voted outstanding professor in the fall of 2009. And third, we'll have Dr. Christian Wells. He's from the USF Tampa Office of Sustainabilty. Dr. Wells is founding director of the Office of Sustainabilty. He's the deputy director of the Patel School of Global Sustainability and associate professor of anthropology at the University of South Florida. Fourth, we'll have Adrienne Gould-Chouquette, State College of Florida. State College of Florida, Manatee, Sarasota just achieved U.S. Green Building Council leadership in energy and environmental design gold certification for its first green certified building, the Medical Technology and Simulation Center at SCF Liquid Range. Finally, Jono Miller of New College, Florida, and he will join the Education Pathways session as well. And let's please welcome all of our panelists.
I'm Tim Rumage. I'm from Ringling College of Art and Design. We're a college of visual arts. So part of the question would be, where does the College of Art and Design fit in the discussion on sort of green jobs and the green economy? And it really is about the fact that we're visual storytellers. Our students are trained to help people figure out and understand why we need change in some of the modalities we're using. Also, because from a design point of view, about 80% to 90% of the life cycle impact and the environmental harm of a product is determined in the design phase. After that, it's just a matter of magnifying that impact by the popularity of the product. If you don't design something to be recyclable, you set the rules. If you design it to use rare or expensive materials, you set the rules. And so trying to get designers to understand the actual impact of the things they design is a fairly critical aspect if we're going to get over into a green area. And so teaching the environmentals area, running the environmental studies program, that's my primary focus, is try to get the students to understand what it is they're designing and what are the impacts of the stories that they happen to be telling. As Budweiser Fuller said, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. You change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete, or I might add simply less desirable. What's the alternative that somebody might want to move to? For those of you who are familiar with it, this is the famous genetically engineered glow-in-the-dark bunny. This was actually an art project. Okay, this was done by an artist in Chicago working with a genetics lab in France to make a bunny that when they went to a nightclub would glow green because of the DNA of jellyfish being inserted into the DNA of the rabbit. And this has led to a desire by some people to have now glow-in-the-dark dogs, cats, and fish, most of which are not available at the moment, but the market demand apparently is still there. Yeah, and so part of what we want our students to do is sort of look at, what are the questions? We just heard there's no such absolute green, there's greener. And so the issue is, are the students really asking a big enough question when they are doing the design work? What is the biggest set of questions you can answer when you're doing a particular project? And how is this stuff going to be changing in their future? At a recent conference, Jennifer McCricker talked a couple of things. She said, we interpret events based on past experience and what makes us most comfortable, and that becoming engaged in solvable, relevant, novel problems is conducive to survival. And while I would agree with both those things, the issue at the moment of sustainability is that what makes us most comfortable and what is conducive to survival are not in the same paradigm anymore. Doing the same stuff isn't going to get us to the future we really want to have. So how do you help students make that jump and do it in a world that deals with the realities that they have in their future? End of the month, UN says we'll be at 7 billion people. We've already got over 1 billion automobiles. End of September was Earth Overshoot Day, where we sort of used up the balance of the Earth's natural resources to meet current demands. We talk about all the species lost, habitat change rates. Those are all kind of fun figures to have, but they're not going to change anybody's mind. They're not going to change anybody's activity. They're too abstract, So, having grown up in a world in which I've been told science and technology can solve problems where there is no problem that the market can't solve, again, dealing with sustainability, it's not about any one of those things, as we point out, it's about the system. How do all these things interlink? And to really get to change sustainability, it's about the user. That's about changing hearts, minds, and behaviors. And that's why you need art and design to save the world, ensure sustainability, and promote world peace. You're just not going to get there, without the stuff we do at Ringling. Okay? Art because you need to see new ways of doing things, and design because that's how you amplify the benefits of the actions and the new materials. And again, most of us will learn this through the stories we tell each other. How do you get the complex to be understandable? How do you make the connections real so that somebody's motivated to change? And the impact of the story actually needs to be strong enough to exceed the fundamentals. It has to be presented in a way that is more engaging than the counter story. Okay? We're looking at recent data on Arctic melt, and there's a concern about the Arctic will be ice-free, the Arctic summer will be ice-free certainly before 2020. Okay? Now, from one story that's out there, this is really good news because shipping is faster and you've got access to oil that's currently under sea ice. Personally, I think melting Santa's workshop is a very bad idea. That also has some economic impacts. Who is the real polar bear? How do you tell that story? How to get people to relook at things. Okay? Here's a map in which what we've done is the size of the country has been drawn relative to the amount of carbon dioxide released. Okay? No wonder the people down here and the people up there have very different outlooks on what climate change is all about and how important the topic is. You want to know why all those chicken nuggets can be the same size, same color, same shape?
It tastes better in blue, though.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it's dark. But again, these are design applications. And our students have been involved in a variety of projects, trying to make things more understandable about the evils of red tide and how you go conquer that. And a project that we're working with Moat. We did a project on Water with Good magazine. This was an example where the students put out a water cooler that wasn't hooked up to anything. You know, so thirsty people went to get a drink, and what they got was a sign that says, "Hey, thirsty? So am I." You know, out of water. What do you want to do about it? Got a website that they can go to find out about world water facts. You know, they didn't get something to drink. You know, we did decide at one point they should include a map to where an actual water device was, so they wouldn't beat this one to a pulp. But you know, these are the kind of things we do. And again, from an art and design point of view, this is sort of a continuation of the history and the role, in many cases, of art and design. How do you get people to look at the world differently? How do you get them to rethink and reconsider? You can't change somebody else's mind. You can give them the setup so that they will reflect upon their own actions to change their own behaviors. That's about the best we can do. And so what are the things we can do? How do you show them, you know, high-performance buildings or alternative ways to purify air or grow food or create landscape and habitat? You know, what's the best media to use for these different, you know, kinds of stories that people need to understand? You know, you haven't seen an animation in the last 10 years that hasn't had a Ringling student in it somewhere. How many of you learned about the environment through the use of field guides? That's all art and design. And yes, it is art and design that gave you the name of James Bond. Okay. Ian Fleming needed a name for his hero when he was working on the book, and that was the field guide he used to choose the name. You know, how do artists make connections to other people? Help us see things in different ways. This is a set of images, one of a set of images by Chris Jordan. You should check out his website for a series called Running the Numbers about consumption patterns of people in the United States. This is 300, it's not all there on the screen, this is 380,000 light bulbs, which is the number of kilowatt hours of electricity wasted in the United States every minute by inefficient residential energy use. Okay? There is room for improvement in the process. And so, as I said, that's what we are. We're visual storytellers. And the idea is to get people to look and feel different or perceive in a different way, to make the unseen and the forgotten and the mentally invisible, and not only just make it visible, but make it valuable. That's our role. That's what we expect our students to do. And I'll leave it there. Thank you much.
Alander from USF Sarasota, Manatee. Relatively new to the Green Jobs programs, but what we do, of course, teaching the College of Business, Human Resources, and Management, and so on, to prepare people, our students, obviously, to get jobs. And one area of interest that I have is the whole unemployment issue. And doing research on green jobs, a variety of green jobs around. What's really interesting about that is a great opportunity for people that don't have a lot of education. They look at green jobs and the Bureau of Labor Statistics going through their stuff, looking at jobs based more on skill and education. And I think it's a great opportunity to at least help work on this 9.1% unemployment. There's a lot of folks out there that can do these jobs with some training and skills, good jobs, good paying jobs, and they're local jobs. They're local jobs. I have a friend in Tampa that works for a company that does like soil recovery after the service station's been torn down or whatever, and does that. He's busy doing that all the time. High school education, he loves his job, he feels like he's committed to getting something improving the environment and that kind of thing. So I'd just like to see us concentrate more on that, in addition to just expanding the education. There's opportunities out there now in this area, and I'd like to see us keep that going and keep those jobs local. They say USF is, my remarks are relatively brief. USF is relatively new to the Green Jobs program, and actually we have another person at USF that would be better able to speak to this than I. Her name is Dr. Jane Roast, and she's the Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences. And at this time we're working with Mo that's a sign too, I think, of education expanding just beyond our own little. I heard our speaker talk about the ivory tower thing, that really want to be part of the community, and something that's not just part of the community, but adds to the value and actually can add to the job. Also in that whole area, we're looking at through Dr. Rose, working with high schools, collaborating with high schools, we create academies of science. And the whole objective is to get people thinking about environmental degrees, environmental things, starting in high school, going through the bachelor's degree, and ultimately the master's. I think going back early. In fact, perhaps even earlier in the middle school, to start building that building block kind of thing. And we have a lot of kids out there that are really interested in this, want to capitalize. I know in my class, we talk a lot about that. Jobs are all, of course, worried about jobs and women to work. And we talk about it. In fact, I had a principles of management class, a chapter on entrepreneurship. And I left the ones that wanted, when I asked the question, how many would like to start their own business? Well, about half of them raised their hands. I really get some really exciting business, and avenue business, really exciting business plans back. And it's interesting, more and more are based on the environment or green jobs. Got a couple of them on charging stations for electric vehicles and how they would do that, or how they would work with General Electric to get the franchise of Sarasota and coming up with these really neat ideas. And just a lot of exciting things happen out there with our kids, and we encourage you to continue to encourage that. Also, through Dr. Rose, I had a nice talk with her a couple days ago. She knew I was coming to this. Training more and more people for research and development positions through the College of Arts and Science, really expanding our science program here in the Sarasota area so we can take on the great moratorium and other great opportunities in the area to do that. The other thing that we're doing is developing a degree in environmental science. And again, what we're starting to do at USS Sarasota Manatee is not just arts and science program, but we do it between the different colleges. So maybe we can take a management class, take a management class in the College of Business, kind of get away from the traditional silos that we see in organizations and colleges, and kind of say, hey folks, we're all in this together. And so that students can come out with that degree. So that's our commitment there. The other thing that we see an opportunity on, and I do a lot of human resource consulting too and training, is developing programs, certificate programs in leadership for people with a scientific background. They really even want to go back to school to get a management degree. Let's say they're an environmental scientist or work for the EPA or some agency, really need management training, management development training. We've been in the process of looking into developing leadership certificate programs. It takes so many hours to get a leadership certificate, and leadership and management would help them further pursue their position. So there's just a lot of opportunity. And areas too, and the State College of Florida probably into this too, 4 areas of construction management. We look at some of the fastest growing jobs in the area of green jobs, clean green jobs. And again, it's somewhat hard to define. Is in construction management. I know we've taken a hit in this area and around the nation on construction, but it's starting to pick up a little bit. And a big part of it, I forgot what the percentage was, but the number, 30-some percent I think of construction type jobs are potentially green type jobs or environmental building efficiency and that kind of thing. So a number of different things we're doing there. As I say, we're relatively new to the green job whole area, but we're doing it in the College of Arts and Sciences and looking at doing some certificate programs in the College of Business in that area too. So that's kind of where we are. I know my remarks were brief, but I just want to keep you on the date of what we're doing at USS Sarasota. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christian Wells. I'm from the University of South Florida in Tampa. Go Bulls. Have any rules in there? All right, thank you. I know we have some other universities represented as well, so I'll take that opportunity. I want to thank Tim for inviting me to participate in this. It's a really wonderful event and a really, truly wonderful building. This is very exciting to be here. And I wanted to take just a few moments to tell you a little bit about what the University of South Florida is up to these days with regard to education and sustainability. We've had a conversation over the past couple of years about I forgot what I was going to say. We've had Go Bulls. I'll go back to Go Bulls. We've had a conversation about the role of institutions of higher learning in the sustainability problem, in the global sustainability problem. And I think a lot of universities have had this conversation also throughout the U.S. And we've sort of developed kind of an arrogant attitude that institutions of higher learning are really the key institutions in society for promoting a sustainable planet. And we believe this because we have students at the universities that we're training to be future global leaders. Through our alumni base, we have access to contemporary leaders in society. Universities and colleges have huge investment power, not only investments for endowment, but purchasing power. For example, the University of South Florida system statewide has an annual economic impact of about $3.7 billion. Billion with a B. That's a huge impact, economic impact on our communities. And through faculty research and the libraries that colleges and universities have, we provide information and evidence-based decisions for local communities. So community members look up to what's going on at colleges and universities for informed opinion, scientific kinds of opinion. So we think that colleges and universities are very key to a sustainable planet. And we've noticed at USF, through our conversations over the past few years, that there are a couple of key challenges, and we've identified 3 challenges to moving forward. I just wanted to share those with you. The first is questioning if education, and in fact, is a key to success. And we've concluded that upward mobility and higher lifetime earnings are crude but accurate indicators of how much carbon the graduate will redistribute from the subsurface to the atmosphere over lifetime consumption. If you think about it, higher earnings often accompany higher education. But higher earnings also often accompanies greater consumption, the ability to purchase more and more stuff. I mean, that's the key to success, right? Buying more and more stuff, being wealthy. And this obviously has a carbon consequence. So we have to rethink the purpose of learning. The second conclusion that we've come to is that the crisis of the environment is a challenge, not just in our curriculum, but to institutional routines and our operational procedures. Campus resource flows are typically regarded as technical matters of institutional management, not problems of moral or even pedagogical concern. Institutions make decisions about what to buy and where to buy them on the basis of price alone, without considering the unassessed environmental and social costs. So it's time to walk the talk and think about the consequences of our decisions. Our final conclusion is that the planetary crisis now unfolding calls into question old and uncomfortable pedagogical conventions about the disciplinary structure of knowledge, the separation of intellectual, particularly intellectual from experiential learning, and even how we think about intelligence. So it's time to redefine learning as holistic instead of fragmented. Instead of training students to be specialists in one particular discipline or another, we can train students to think holistically and about interconnections with the biosphere. At the University of South Florida, we have wondered how on earth are we going to overcome these challenges, because these are not just USF challenges, these are challenges for all colleges and universities. The notion of learning and the notion of intelligence and knowledge. So how are we going to overcome this? What is the one thing that we want to impart to students? And we've had conversations over the years from ecologists who believe that the one most important thing is environmental literacy. You have to understand how the environment works. Economists have informed us, no, you must understand the relationship between micro and macroeconomics at a global scale. You have to understand resource flows because, like Al was saying, it's all about water and energy. It's all about these flows of water and energy. The anthropologists and social scientists told us, no, it's all about community. We have to understand how communities work, how systems of communities work, so that we can get along with our neighbors. And of course, it's not any one of these things, it's all of these things. But the one thing that we all agreed upon is that we need to graduate students who fully and truly understand the consequences of their decisions. And to do that, they need to have a better understanding of the interconnections that they have with people and places throughout the world. And this came to me a couple of years ago, to me and my family a couple of years ago. As a faculty member, I conduct research. I'm actually an archaeologist by training, and I conduct research in Honduras mostly. And we were in Honduras, getting ready to go to Honduras, and I had to buy some clothes that you don't necessarily want to bring back because you're in the field and you get kind of messed up. So I took my oldest daughter to Target, and we were buying some t-shirts and things, and we noticed that one of her t-shirts was from Honduras, made in Honduras. And so we thought, oh, this is awesome. We're going to buy this t-shirt made in Honduras. That's cool. Got a big kick out of it. So then we went to Honduras, and while we were there, she asked, well, where exactly is this from in Honduras? And I said, well, I don't know. It just says Honduras. So we started asking around, and believe it or not, this is from, the t-shirt was from, and no offense to Kathy Lee Gifford, but it's from the Kathy Lee Gifford line. And we found one of the factories that makes these t-shirts. And so we thought, well, this is neat. This is going to be a learning lesson for my daughter. So I had some friends in the community, and they allowed us to go into the factory and see these t-shirts being made. How cool is that? Well, much to my shock as a parent, you're supposed to check these things out before you introduce your children to them. It was not a very nice, pleasant environment. And in fact, most of the workers were my daughter's age. They were 8 years old. And this was just an incredible, I'm sorry, I still get emotional about it, because it was just an incredible experience for my daughter to walk in and see this is where she got her t-shirt from. Other kids her age were being paid $1 a week to make this in these conditions. We didn't understand the consequences of just going to Target and buying a t-shirt until we went and saw where that t-shirt was made and who was making it. And now forever, I don't know if this has scarred her or me or both of us, but she's always asking now, where's this made? Where's this made? I want her to keep thinking that way, but I don't want her to be paranoid. I want her to get out with her life. But have those questions in the back of her mind always. And that's what we want students at universities and at USF to have, those questions in the back of their mind always. What is the consequence of the decision that I'm making here? That I buy this or I buy that. And we mostly don't get that at all. So a couple of years ago, our president signed, and you may have heard about this climate commitment in the news, the American College and University President's Climate Commitment. This is a nationwide climate commitment of colleges and universities that obligates schools to assess the environmental impacts that they have and come up with a long-term action plan to mitigate the adverse impacts of those environmental consequences, in professional speak. And so, since that signing about 3 years ago, we've engaged in a number of initiatives to be able to get us to that place where we can really start to impact students. Because we believe that the institution, that the campus infrastructure, that buildings, and the way that they're arranged and how they're built, like this one, they're not silent. They're not passive parts of the curriculum, but they're hidden parts of the curriculum. And if we want students to learn about what it means to become a more sustainable, resilient community, we have to teach them in buildings like this one, in LEED eco-friendly buildings like this one. That needs to be a model for students to learn. You know, you always wonder why, when the bell rings and class gets out, all the students get up and run out of class. It's because they're in crummy buildings. Buildings that are not teaching them anything. We need to walk the talk here. So since the signing, we've incorporated sustainability into our strategic plan, convened a steering committee to get our greenhouse gas inventory in order, created an Office of Sustainability to oversee these initiatives, We've implemented a university-wide policy of institutional sustainability that helps faculty, staff, and students understand a bit more about what sustainability is so that they can incorporate that into their office procedures. We've launched a School of Global Sustainability, and I'm super, super proud to say that we have one of our very first graduates here in the audience, Ms. Joy Ingram. Wave your hand. She gets those interconnections. She understands that kind of holistic perspective that you need for a sustainable society. So come and talk to Joy if you want to know more about it. I also, of course, brought brochures. So if anyone is interested in learning more about the school, I have them on the back table here. In addition to the school, we've helped to design and build the first eco-friendly, our LEED Gold building on campus. And I'm very pleased to say that now, over the past couple of years, it's become a Florida state statute that all public buildings that go up on universities must be LEED certifiable. That's a huge step forward for the state of Florida. And most recently, we've created a $1 million student green energy fund. The students have become to experience a culture of sustainability on campus by being involved in these initiatives. And in this economic time, last semester, they decided to tax themselves $1 per student credit hour that would go toward a fund to help us with sustainability initiatives. And this generates an annual revenue stream of about $1 million that we're able to put toward these kinds of initiatives. In using these initiatives to reorient our curriculum, you may have seen these three spheres, and you may have seen these traditional definitions of sustainability that incorporate social, environmental, and economic aspects of sustainability. At USF, we have decided to make it a little bit more palatable for students, and so we reinterpreted that to constitute citizenship, metabolism, the notion of urban metabolism, and resiliency. And I see my time is up, but I'm going to take 30 more seconds, if you don't mind, just to tell you about the notion of global citizenship. Help students understand that they are citizens of the world. What does it mean to be a good citizen? It means to be democratically engaged. It means to get out there and vote and have a voice. To be good to your neighbors. We want them to be not just citizens in their communities, but global citizens. We don't want them to be citizens. A person whose civic engagement consists of sitting around in kitchen shops, sitting around the gridlock in D.C. and the environmental crisis without ever doing it. We want them to be global citizens. We've also introduced the concept of urban metabolism, the idea that the university is like an organism. And we want to study its metabolism, the inputs and outputs of energy and water. And we can map those on campus with geographic information systems and identify the inefficiencies and go after those inefficiencies. That helps orient our resources. We want to train ecologicians, a person who practices the magical arts of regenerative design that Tim was talking about. We don't have an environmental problem, and I'm sure Tim might agree, we have a design problem. We're not designing with earth in mind. And finally, we introduced the concept of ecological resiliency, the idea that we need to pay attention to the adaptive structure of universities, the resiliency of universities, the bounce back. And so we are trying to create, as Tim is at Ringling, designing minds. Minds designed to see the designs of nature and culture and to design a society that harmonizes them happily ever after. Because this is what I am trying to explain to my kids. Anna is on the left, Ava's on the right. In trying to define to them what I do at USF, they had often said, oh, well, Dad does recycling. Okay, actually physical plant does recycling, but I support that. So I had to describe what is sustainability to an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. And so I told them it's living happily ever after. How do you live happily ever after? What are the values that you must have and change in society to live happily ever after? So that's it. That's who I am. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Adrienne Gould-Chouquette. I'm the Program Director of Emerging Technologies at the State College of Florida, which includes our new Bachelor's of Applied Science and Energy Technology Management and our Associate degree in engineering technology and the associate degree in construction management technology. So I'm going to spend a few minutes today to tell you about our school offerings. And first, who we are. We're the first college in the state to offer a BAS in energy technology management. We have an associate's degree, like I said, in engineering technology, and that specializes in alternative energy. And our construction management technology degree has an emphasis on the green economy. And there's three people in the picture here. The person in the middle is Dr. Hafner. He's made sustainability one of our goals at the college and places huge emphasis on that. Dr. Mears is the other person. He's the Vice President of Baccalaureate Programs, and he's also, between the two of them, really spearheaded this Bachelor's of Applied Science degree, and the other one is me. I also wanted to recognize three people out there today. Darlene Wedler-Johnson is the Provost of Venice campus, and she was also very instrumental in getting the facilities that I'll show you in a little bit, the engineering technology program and the construction management program, and has a passion for sustainability and these issues. So with Darlene and Cindy Hunter, who is corporate and community development and offers classes in clean energy, and so I appreciate your work. And Abby Gage, who is our newest, I think first adjunct, I would call her, for the Energy Technology Management Program. So I'll start the story where I started. I've been at the college a little bit over 2 years and was hired as the program director for the engineering tech and the construction management technology programs. And our program aligns with FLATE, which is a statewide consortium for engineering technology, and it has an award-winning curriculum framework. And the core of the program prepares students for manufacturing positions, for manufacturing production, with quality, courses like instrumentation, quality, safety, electronics, and CAD. And the program has also added a specialization. This is actually the only specialization is in alternative energy. And the students can take classes like Sustainable Florida, solar energy, energy efficient building construction, and HVAC design. And the remainder of the classes come from electives. So when students come to my office and they ask, what are the job prospects if I get this degree? And so I go through the kind of the canned list of job prospects that fall under the regular umbrella of this degree. But I also always end up by saying that my hope for the students, not all of them, but I know that there's a population of students that will walk away from this degree with the skills for manufacturing and with the skills and knowledge of how to manufacture in a sustainable way, that they will walk away and they will start their own businesses. And when I hear about the educational opportunities offered in this area, I really hope that this area can be kind of a hub for incubator companies, and starting this, Southwest Florida could be known as the Silicon Valley of the green generation. And it sounds, it maybe, I don't know, maybe sounds like a little bit far-fetched, but if you look at Albany, New York, now they are considered kind of the hub of the solar energy manufacturing. So you wouldn't think of Albany, New York, and think of solar kind of hand in hand, but it takes initiative like this to make these things happen. And so I'm so happy to see, I see almost too many things to put on my calendar, citizens getting together and trying to make this idea a reality. So it's very exciting. So I also have pictures of my children up here. This is Riley and Miles. This summer I had the opportunity through FLATE, a grant from the National Science Foundation, to go to San Sebastian, Spain, and create a study abroad program for the students of the engineering technology program in the state of Florida. So next summer, 8 students will go to Spain, all expense paid, courtesy of the National Science Foundation, and they will learn firsthand about renewable energy from a leader in the vast country of Spain, and hopefully bring those skills and that knowledge back and share it with our area, and we'll continue that relationship with Spain. So it's an opportunity awarded to our students. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about construction management technology, and it's the same kind of framework where we have a core of classes, and the core towards codes and specifications, materials, methods, construction estimating, drafting and surveying, project management, and construction drafting. I'll just say quickly about construction drafting. I think we're one of the only schools in the area in the construction arena that still offer a hand drafting class. And when I go to advisory committee meetings, I always ask, is it still necessary? Is it still necessary to make the investment in the instructors and having the students take the hand drafting courses? And I always get, yes, definitely the students still need to be able to convey their thoughts on paper, and then, of course, always important that they're able to convert it to drafting, digital design. So we also teach AutoCAD, SolidWorks, and Revit, but the philosophy is they learn the fundamentals, the hand drafting, and then they can learn the software that's required to convert it to a digital medium. And so the students will take that core of construction management classes, and then they can take the same set of the two programs share the same set of the green tech classes, Sustainable Florida, HVAC design. One class that I have approval to offer, and I haven't offered yet, it's still just existing kind of in my mind, is a class called Off the Grid, and I wanted to try to pool members of the community together in areas where they've gotten completely off the grid. So I've met a doctor at a conference in Punta Gorda who's off the water grid completely. He harnesses or collects all the rainwater and uses that for potable and non-potable requirements. Of course, people are off the grid with solar, and some people not necessarily off the grid with solar, but still on the grid and selling that. So at some point, I'll collect all these people together, and I'll have a class with all this combined knowledge of how to get off the grid. And a lot of my research, or a lot of my jumping points from this came from Thomas Friedman's Hot, Flat, and Crowded. And I listened to the book as I was, listened to it while I was commuting and read it while I was at home, but I happened to listen to this while I was on my commute, and it said the beauty of the Green Jobs program is that there's no question whatsoever as building codes change and green technologies make retrofitting your home a no-brainer, that green-collar jobs will be waiting for anyone who gets trained to do them. I was in my car and I cheered and I thought, future students need to see this and need to see the potential of this. So this was written in 2008, so perhaps we're lagging a little bit, but it's on the horizon for sure. And the last program I'll talk about is the brand new program that starts in the spring. It's the BAS in Energy Technology Management. And I won't read through the list of jobs, but it's a combination of kind of building science courses along with management courses. And I know we have some prospective students here in the audience, and Bert is considering taking the plunge and joining the program. So it should be an exciting program. It's going to be fully online with each class being 5 weeks. So it's an interesting model. And quickly I'll show you the resources that our program has. I mentioned when I first came here the beautiful labs that Darlene Wedler-Johnson helped the program obtain. And so we have, from a grant program, we have these manufacturing laboratory, high-tech, quality, industry standard equipment. We have a 3D printer so we can do the prototyping of ideas. And so the design at the bottom, that green design at SCF, is a paperclip holder that actually is student designed, and then we printed it out in the 3D printer, so now currently holding paperclips somewhere. Okay, and that's it. Anybody has any questions? I guess we'll do that.
Well, I'm Jono Miller. I'm from New College, and my topic is why you may not want to have 5 people in your panel. I've been doing environmental education, I calculate, for about 43 years now. But started back when it was really natural history and gone through different iterations. And I want to tell you today that I am encouraged about what I'm seeing at New College. At the beginning of the year, we invited students that self-identified as environmental studies students to come to our house for dinner, and 5% of the college showed up in our living room. And it's really very exciting, some of the things that are going on there, and I don't want to take a lot of time because this session is technically ended. I wanted to build on something Tim said. And just, I think you all know there's a tremendous emphasis right now in our country on what's called STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Those are really important skills and we need to develop those. But if we think for a minute, and I hope everyone has, in the last 12 hours, about Steve Jobs, he was not a mathematician, he was not an engineer, he was not a scientist, and he was a technologist, but we don't think of him that way. And there's an acronym I've been using, Tim, that I call DICE, and it's Design, Innovation, Creativity, and Entrepreneurship. And it's people like Steve Jobs that really embody those skills that go beyond the basics that we need to really figure out how to implement this stuff. So I want to get on the design train. In the Environmental Studies program at New College, and I would say more generally, we emphasize a number of things: practical experience, dealing with real-world problems, looking at community issues. We require practicums and independent study projects. You can't graduate with an environmental studies degree at New College without having done something practical either on the campus or in the community. And I'm sitting in right now on 3 classes at New College, and I just wanted to mention them briefly. I think to emphasize the fact that the problems aren't that we don't know enough scientifically about what the issues are, although we clearly need to know more, but it's translating that into the social realm. And so I might just tell you these 3 things quickly. I'm sitting on one class that's dealing with the social implications of climate change. Pretty interesting stuff. We've got a geographer for the first time, and I've really been enjoying that. Secondly, David Brain, an urban sociologist, is working with students to try and figure out techniques and processes for people to come together and reach agreement on community issues, which obviously is really crucial. Finally, I'm sitting in on a tutorial that deals with what we're calling the green fee, and this was mentioned previously. Just as you heard previously, students at New College voted essentially to tax themselves to raise money. Now that may raise $1 million elsewhere, it raised $26,000 at New College. But the process of having students deliberate and try to figure out how to identify the best project, and is that going to be the one that is the highest profile and inspires people the most? Is it going to save the most energy? Is it going to have the smallest carbon footprint? These are challenging questions, and working through that process to address those is preparing these students then to go out and do comparable things when they graduate. I'm seeing a lot of interest right now in the students. One of the other speakers talked about the role of students in the campus community. People are starting to get active about why the thermostats are supposed to be at 78, but they're not. Faculty call in and complain, and then the physical plant people adjust their thermostat down. So I'm happy to see that pressure beginning. Students want to put up clotheslines, which is making a lot of people nervous about aesthetics. Are people going to run into clotheslines and get clotheslines? So there are issues there, but it's really tremendously encouraging to see that happening. I wanted to say that I think it's really important that, I'm not addressing a high school or college age group here. I really think it's important that here in Sarasota, we try to think seriously about creating opportunities for the graduates of Ringling and these other institutions to be able to remain in Sarasota and have some entry-level paid internship type jobs so that they can get started. I know over the years, it's not so much now, but previously we had a lot of students when they would graduate would go to work for Sarasota County. My understanding is the county sort of raised the bar on what the minimum requirements are for employment, and that's complicated the situation. But I really think to the extent that our nonprofits, organizations like SCOPE, local consulting firms, and government can make room to hire recent graduates, I think that's really going to have a big payback. And just to close, I guess I wanted to make a point. How many former New College students do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, how many of you currently or previously have raised chickens? And they laughed at me. They laughed at me when I argued in front of the city commission that the ability to keep chickens could be a factor in keeping well-educated, college-educated people in this community. But the proof is right here in this room. It does make a difference, and I applaud you all.
Well, no, I have to disagree with you about one thing. In most cases, maybe it's not good to have 5 panelists, but in this case, I just think they were so tremendous, and we should be so proud to have these institutions and these individuals in our community. We're just going to open up the floor for about 5 minutes for some questions. There's a microphone right there. So if you have a question, please state your name and affiliation. And if you want to direct it to a particular expert, make sure let us know who you're directing it to.
Hi, good morning. Chris Costello from the Sierra Club. Something that was said, the crisis of the environment is a challenge to institutional routines. Mr. Wells said that. I have a question regarding the pressure that comes with the need for funding, research funding, etc., university funding. And I'm wondering if any of you could speak to the traditional sources, traditional industries that have funded research at the university level, and the pressure to, I don't know the politically correct way to say, cater to that traditional industry funding source, and the looking for new funding sources, and how to deal with that, which we see as an obvious pressure and a difficult thing to deal with.
I'll take a stab at that. USF is a state-funded, state-supported school, and you know that over the past few years, state-supported higher education has decreased in funding quite a bit, and that a lot of that has to do with the decrease in tourism and the oil spill and other consequences. So the emphasis for funding, the new model for funding, besides raising tuition in higher education, is seeking external kinds of research grants that bring in overhead that allow institutions to operate. The catch-22 with that is research buildings on campuses tend to be the most energy-hungry buildings on campus because they have to have labs that are open 24 hours. They have different kinds of requirements for air quality. They have a variety of other kinds of needs that make them very energy-hungry. So it's a balance between bringing in research dollars and growing your institution through research, and then having the infrastructure that supports it. So that's a real challenge for us. Up until, I would say, a few years ago, most research at USF, and I suspect at many other institutions, has been very focused on demonstrating concepts and demonstrating ideas and seeing how they work, and not really focused on scaling them up. Something that's very encouraging is that over the past couple of years, that research has turned to become outcome-driven research, where researchers are engaging with the local community to find, from the very beginning, to find out what their problems are and help them solve their problems. So we've become less ivory tower and more community engaged. And in doing so, we've had to explore public-private partnerships and bringing in research dollars from corporations and other kinds of organizations. And there are a lot of ethical issues involved, and it's certainly not the same throughout an entire university, but it varies depending on the discipline. But those I see are the big challenges and trends.
I was just curious if any of your institutions have considered starting a program in sustainable agriculture. As this is an emerging trend, a possible source of a lot of green jobs. And there's colleges and universities in non-primarily rural communities that are doing this, such as UC Santa Cruz has a great program in agroecology. Thank you.
Well, New College isn't big enough to have agronomics, but we do, usually every semester there's a tutorial that's organic gardening tutorial, and we've had faculty members that have computer people and classics people, but yes, there's a lot of interest in students in agriculture. And in fact, something I was going to mention, I have a good friend who worked in physics at New College. He was studying, I don't know if it was carbon nanotubes or buckyballs, and I'm leaving Saturday morning to go visit him in New Hampshire where he's raising chickens and pigs. So he was on the cutting edge of technology in terms of nanocarbon research, and he's now doing ag. So there's quite an amount of interest in it, and we try to encourage the students to not just figure it out on their own, but connect with the community gardening people, because they actually know what grows in Sarasota. Everybody wants to start out with a seed catalog and order seeds and grow whatever they can, and it takes a while for them to figure out that the knowledge is not necessarily in a seed catalog or an IFAS document, but it's people that live here in Sarasota that have gone through all this stuff and know what to grow. So it's not a formal program. I don't think you could graduate with an agriculture degree, but Jesse came close with raising basil, I remember. So that's about the status of it, but there is a tremendous amount of student interest.
I'm just going to echo what Jono said. We've got students who are very interested in the field. Obviously, it really doesn't match with our standard curriculum, but we do have some new courses coming online dealing with food and agriculture, and we've been sort of hosting discussions about a food summit in March. Talk about local agriculture issues, and the students have been requesting land be set aside on campus both for agriculture and horticultural purposes, and it's sort of running into sort of the clothesline debate about does it match what the board of trustees thinks is most appropriate use of landscape in a particular spot. So we're also trying to push that as we grow new buildings, that we grow green roofs and use that surface there.
If I could just riff off that question and ask, more pointedly, is there a way that state universities and local governments through the K-12 school system could focus on providing more fresh, local agricultural products at the university and school scale?
Yeah, I think so. In fact, one of the things we're doing with the environmental side of things, working with schools and kind of planting and seed, so to speak, in even middle school and developing on through. And the agriculture thing certainly could happen. We're looking at developing some new programs. I'll take that back. So, but yeah, absolutely, it has to be joint ventures. Can't do it alone with government and schools and private businesses. And the other person said you have to be careful about sometimes in the other businesses. Heard some conflicts around the state with that taking dollars. Our research dollars primarily is a science program, just really started to get growing, has been in education areas, and it's been for foundations, specifically dealing with that.
Also, Sarasota's got a very successful farm-to-school program, school garden program, and has been working with community gardens as well. And so, it is a part of how education is being done, and it's a growing part of what's happening. So those aspects are there. The students again have asked for more of this at Ringling. We contract out food services, and so some better discussions going on to see what can be done about that.
Just to add to that, I think charter schools might be the key to starting out and working out the kinks, because they have a lot more flexibility in making those kinds of decisions. And one specific example is there's a new charter school emerging in Tampa called, it's got a terrible acronym, GATES, but it stands for Global School of Arts, Technology, and Environmental Sustainability. And they're working closely with Sweetwater Organic Community Farm in Tampa, CSA, Community Support Agriculture, and students from USF are the nexus of helping join those two and doing the farming and bringing the charter schools might be a good place to start.
Bill Moran from Dennis, fully retarded. When I came in this morning, I picked up this freebie, and when I got to my seat, I turned it over, and I see that it's made in China. To the provider, thank you very much, but no thank you. I'd like to beg your indulgence to read you something very brief from the Journal of Light Construction news piece from the JLC report. It wasn't that long ago that perfectly serviceable houses in red-hot markets were regularly bulldozed so that bigger, higher-priced homes could be built on the same lot. Now, a new twist on this tear-down process, a growing number of banks nationwide are expected to reduce their inventories of unsold foreclosed homes by demolishing them. Bank of America recently announced plans to tear down 100 homes in Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago, and as many as 9 other cities by the end of this year. According to Bloomberg News, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Chase, and Fannie Mae are considering similar programs or are conducting them already. Quote, there is way too much supply, end quote. One real estate professional was quoted as saying, the best thing we can do to stabilize the market is to get this garbage off. We're going to send them to the landfill, folks?
You have a question?
Well, it's just any kind of comment that you might have in that regard, and any assistance that you can offer me by giving me your emails in kicking off a program to not send these homes to the landfill. Thank you.
I guess my only comment on that is I've been reading recently about efforts in Detroit, and obviously Detroit's had a declining population. There aren't actually people to live in the residences, and what's been happening is that new structures involved in some of these urban areas where there are remaining homes, but then there are a lot of vacant lots, and people are both legally and illegally farming these lots. The lots can be bought in Detroit for $300, and so rather than having a vacant home that's boarded up and it's an attractive nuisance and there aren't people willing to live there, to be able to clear that up and put it in production is a pretty intriguing idea. So I agree with you that it's senseless to take perfectly good homes that people could buy at reasonable cost and live in and make a go of it. But in situations where you have declining population, the homes have deteriorated, and there's an opportunity to think about a new structure, I think that's worth considering as well.
On a bright note on the China issue, there's a recent article in Business Week this last week about a number of jobs, number of products coming back to the United States because Chinese wages are going up so rapidly and so on. So that's a bright spot, and hopefully they'll continue. I know some companies that have actually brought products back. I think Westinghouse or GE brought back some of their turbine or generator division because of the quality, and so just kind of watch that. Hopefully they'll keep moving.
Well, let's thank our speakers again.
Management technology program, I see houses that have the opportunity to be retrofitted or torn down, and a lot of the houses that I see are being torn down are houses that we really should strive to maintain. For example, the mid-century houses that were designed by the Sarasota School of Architecture. I also was a graduate of Venice High School, and so to see that campus torn down in place of a brand new structure, I wonder if they couldn't have somehow retrofitted that. So an emphasis on the construction program at the State College Board will be for retrofitting and not necessarily clear-cutting and building new homes that there's no need to add that extra inventory to the community.